Okay.
And we're live on the Virtual Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm here with my favorite acquisitions manager in the country. He's also our Gray Line Investments acquisitions manager, Mr. Adam Parsons. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well, John. Thanks for asking.
Excellent. So we did a couple interviews with a couple of our awesome virtual assistants, and maybe we're going to go through our company and end up interviewing everybody. But I want to get you on and talk the state of acquisitions, the state of real estate, and then really dig into how someone could get started with a limited budget. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's talk about the state of real estate first, right? Like, how is real estate wholesaling, flipping? You're primarily on the acquisition side. How are we finding deals? Talk to me about what going into fourth quarter of 2021, what your outlook is.
Yeah, for sure, man. The real estate market, I haven't seen the slowdown. It's still hard to acquire the deals at a discount. Everybody has got that realtor friend putting houses on the market over market value and foregoing inspection, all that other craziness. So that stuff is still happening. So it's hard to find deals and acquire them below market value. We're obviously doing it. And then obviously going into fourth quarter, it kind of like puts it's even tougher, right? Not a lot of people want to sell their homes in fourth quarter with the holidays, all that other good stuff. I know our company last year, we're kind of preparing for it this year, but last year it was rough during November, December timeframe, in January even. And so yeah, we're preparing for fourth quarter, of course.
Gotcha. So how are we going to approach fourth quarter different this year from an acquisitions perspective?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've done a few things. Last year, we were really focused on a deal a day and pushing volume across the board. And when we do that, we also notice that our wholesale fees aren't as high. So this time around, we've over the past couple of weeks, we've done some tweaking when it comes to what our buy box is, what we're looking for, how far we dig on the assignment fees or our discounted properties. So we're looking to do potentially less deals, but higher assignment fees. And hopefully by doing so, we can dispo more deals during that time and get bigger fees, of course.
And as you think about acquisition side, MAO or max allowable offer, so going into a home, that is the number that, like, as high as you can go. How has that evolved throughout 2021 for you?
Yeah. So it's, the MAO, it's definitely market dependent. There's some markets that are absolutely on fire, and we've went up to 75, 80%, which typically in wholesaling doesn't happen unless you're in markets like San Francisco, New York, and so forth. But there's been markets like in El Paso where we're able to stretch that typical 70% where we like to be, where we can be in 75 to 80% in El Paso. Other markets, though, we still try to sit around 70 to 70% for our max allowable offer, obviously minus repairs.
So 70 to 75%. How do you know if your max allowable offer is too high, and how do you know if it's too low? How do you balance that?
Yeah, constant communication with your disposition. So myself and Carlo, we set up some time every single week to go over the deals that we currently have in the pipeline. If we're going to terminate a property, we got to give each other like good feedback. Typically it comes from him, the feedback why it's being terminated. And, that feedback is relayed from our investors and so forth. People that have been giving us like on the ground advice on the property and information on, what their thoughts were on the property. Maybe, we got it too high of a price. Maybe our ARV was off. Maybe it needed too many repairs, and repairs is another thing that has thrown a wrench in I think a lot of deals this year specifically, because of the building costs and some of the natural disasters in our areas of operation.
For sure. Definitely that, like, rehab that looks like it's going to be a 20K rehab is ending up costing more, and it's just taking longer. So flippers are looking at that 20K rehab like it's a 40K rehab now, and it's hard to keep up with it, huh?
Yeah, for sure, man.
So you've been doing this 40 hours plus a week for the past, we're probably about 18 months in, right? So what are the biggest things you've learned about being an acquisitions manager in a flipping and wholesale company in the last 18 months? Biggest takeaways.
Biggest takeaway is it's not easy, despite what the gurus or other people out there may tell you. It's definitely not easy, and it's not cheap either. I know our company, we spend a lot of money on marketing and stuff, and we're a fairly big wholesaling company at this point, so we do spend some money, but that would be my biggest takeaways is it's not easy, and it's definitely not cheap.
Gotcha. All right, so let's go into what I think is going to kind of be the meat and potatoes of this episode. It's like how to get started, right? But from your perspective, okay? And I'm going to set the stage here. I know this is the virtual real estate investing podcast, but let's say you weren't virtual, right? You live around Milwaukee, Wisconsin, okay? So if you had, if you were making ends meet, but you weren't killing it, and you had, let's put the number at $3,000. Okay. So you had $3,000 living around Milwaukee, Wisconsin. What would you do to get your first deal? Right. And then we can kind of grow it from there. But with a $3,000 budget, what would you do to get your first deal?
Yeah. And you've definitely challenged me, seeing I said it wasn't going to be easy, and it's definitely not going to be cheap. And $3,000 in wholesale, that's definitely on the cheap end. I would say first and foremost, there's a few things that I know I need at this point in order to be successful. And I think with a budget of $3,000, I would definitely use PropStream. It definitely a value add. I would start with PropStream. And then, of course, you can pull lists and so forth, but you said local, and I only have $3,000. So I don't want to use all my marketing to pulling a list and so forth for the area. I would drive for dollars. Here in Milwaukee, there's definitely some houses, you can drive by. Since we've been doing this, there's houses that always catch my eye, and I'm like, oh, the weeds are growing up. It's typical wholesale house. So I would definitely try to find those addresses. Write those down after I'm driving around for the day, come back, and then I would do something called skip trace. And I would be very deliberate with those addresses. I would skip trace those addresses, find out who the owners are, and then start making phone calls or door knocking them. Maybe putting some letters in the mailbox, but that's how I would tackle it initially.
So how many, you would say driving for dollars, right? How many addresses would you try to get before you started the skip trace? And the reason I'm trying to make this point is I think people that aren't in this game think they can identify 2 houses and they're like, all right, here we go, I got my deal. So how many addresses would you get before you'd go to the next step?
Yeah, I'd say 50. 50 is a good start. Maybe even 100 would be a good start. So I would just try at this point, drive around, drive for dollars, and write down all my addresses, and then also write down notes, right? Like, hey, if you can see that the roof needs repair, write that down. Take as much notes on that property as you can, so you have that in your tool belt when you engage the seller. And then I would skip trace that. But yeah, like, out of those 50, or you may only get 25 of them back. You never know how that skip is going to come back. And then of course, at that point, it's just a numbers game on who you get in a hold of.
Gotcha. So then you get their phone numbers. Are you texting them? Are you calling them? Are you using Google Voice or Launch Control or Ready Mode? How are you calling those 50 to 100 people? Or, how are you getting in touch with them rather?
Yeah. Initially I would say text message is great. And with the budget that I'm on, I would say, again, start off with my personal phone. I was just talking to a buddy the other day, and I reminded him how I started, and it was Google Excel spreadsheet and my personal phone. And that's how we locked up our first couple days or first couple deals in Gray Line. So yeah, I would definitely use my personal phone, call and text message them. And that's what I would do when it comes to trying to contact them. Mailers are probably great. They can be a little pricey, but hey, print out your message and shove it in their mailbox, maybe on your second milk run.
Gotcha. So you got this list, you're calling, texting this list. I mean, what do you say, right? Like, do you say, hey, I'll give you $100,000 for your property, or just talk us through, it doesn't have to be, the full thing, but how do you intro that call or text? And then, how do you progress to a script or to closing? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would start off with like, hey, you're just trying to buy properties within the area, and find out if they're interested in selling their home. And then I would try to, when they do say they're interested, there's obviously got to be a reason. So I would try to find that, I call it a pain point. So just trying to find out, why they want to sell. And in some of that cases, you might have been able to see a lot of the distress and so forth in their life, in their home, when you wrote down that address, and that might definitely reflect in their answer. But yeah, I would try to get their motivation, and sometimes that will give you enough information on like their level of motivation, how much they want to sell the home. And then of course, I would ask them what they want for their home before you even give any type of offer on that property.
Gotcha. And then, like, I know it's impossible to say, but if I told you, like, hey, you had to do this in a weekend, right? Like, what does that house look like, right? Like, what kind of house are you most likely to wholesale on your first deal?
Yeah, I like single family, right? 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single family. It's the pretty generic avatar for especially what we do here at Gray Line. So that I would stick with what I know. But that's also very market dependent too. We might, the areas that you go into, it might be a lot of duplexes here in Milwaukee. We got a lot of those old style duplexes here in Milwaukee. I know if you go to Facebook Marketplace, which may be another great place for you to take down your first deal, but you may be able to find a duplex. But I personally, I'm familiar with single family homes, so that's what I would stick with.
Gotcha. Let's dig into Facebook Marketplace a little bit. Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. What are your thoughts? Are all those scams? Can you actually find deals there? What's up?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's definitely scams there, right? Or people that will lock up homes that may have that may even be owned by the city in some cases. And then they try to resell the home for a higher value. So you'll definitely find those. But if you do have a lot of time on your hands, I would definitely say, hey, scour Facebook. There's definitely people trying to sell their home on Facebook Marketplace and so forth, where you'll still be able to get a good deal, right? And they likely have never sold a home before if they're trying to sell their first home or the primary home on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. Craigslist is a great place still where mom and pop investors, tired landlords go, and they've always put their rental on Craigslist. And when they go to retire, that's likely a place where they go to sell their place too. So yeah, for sure. I would definitely leverage both of those platforms. There's obviously a few more, but
Gotcha. So I think I probably asked you this before, but I think it's a great question. Sales or marketing, right? And what I mean by that is, let's call marketing getting leads, right? Getting people that are interested in selling their house. And then we'll call sales taking that lead and getting them to sign on the dotted line, right? So sales and marketing. In this situation where you've got $3,000 to get your first deal, where are you spending most of your effort, to get more leads or to convert more of those leads? Or just how do you think about that process?
yeah. Initially, like I said, I would try to build my list from driving for dollars, for sale by owner, Zillow, Scour, Craigslist, Facebook. And then, I would try not to use a lot of money on pulling lists and so forth in that nature. Because it's going to be, once you got the property under contract or a purchase agreement, you're still going to have some time and a challenge now to find a buyer for that contract. And that's where I know our company can spend quite a bit of money too, is, hey, now that we got a discounted property, where's the buyer, right? And so now you got to find that piece to exit the property.
So does that mean we should develop a cash buyer list first before we get our deal?
No, not at all. And a lot of people, that's where they want to start. And I guess if you want to start there, that's cool. My advice would be, get your first deal, because in the process, you're going to comp a lot of properties. You're going to get a lot of experience doing that. You're going to know what you're looking for, and you're going to find out, like, it's not easy finding the property either. And again, you don't know what type of investor you're looking for if you don't have a property either. So there's some investors that are looking for that duplex, that Old Town Wisconsin duplex. There's other ones that want the single family home. So I most certainly would lock up the deal first, get your first one locked up before you try to find a buyer.
Right. I look at it like, if you're trying to develop a cash buyers list and you ask 100 people if they want to be on it, 99 of them are going to be like, yeah, sure, I'll be on your cash buyers list, right? And if you ask 100 people if they want to sell their house, 99 of them, if not more, are going to be like, no, go F yourself, right? So to me, that's a sign that people don't want to do the real work. Maybe they're misguided, but I think sometimes they just don't want to do the work, right? So what about finding a title company? What are your thoughts there? Should you find that beforehand? What contract should you use? And I think both of those topics kind of bore us, so we don't have to spend too much time there. But how would you think about that going into your first deal?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a purchase agreement, just email me, adam@graylineinvestments.com. I'll be more than happy to shoot you over what we use for our purchase agreement. So that answers that question. The big thing is all this information is all over the internet. People have shared purchase agreements in the past. If you got to lock up a property, just lock it up, figure it all out later. That's my motto, especially on that first one or two properties. When it comes to a title company, again, I would go to maybe some of your real estate investor, local real estate investor Facebook groups, and find out the wholesale friendly title companies or investor friendly title companies in the area. And I would just start there, and just try to, again, lock up your first deal and then go to them. Don't try to build all this rapport and stuff beforehand, but that's what I would do. Yeah.
I got you. So what is the like, why do some people not find and close their first deal, right? Like, what are the biggest things to going from 0 to 1 with your first wholesale deal?
Yeah, I mean, I said get 50 leads. They stop at 49 and the 50th one says yes. I think a lot of people just quit. And that's, whether they don't have enough time in the day, or they just don't have enough leads. But yeah, they get defeated, and then they try to do like all that stuff that we said on the back end. They try to put that in the beginning, and that stuff can be challenging too. So I say put a lot of effort and action into finding the deal, getting your purchase agreement signed, and then going forward. But a lot of people just straight up quit.
Gotcha. So how do you deal with so many no's, right? If you're getting 99 out of 100 no's, how do you deal with like that much negativity?
Yeah, it's actually still hard to this day for me. And I've been doing sales in general since 2010, with recruiting, and then of course real estate here. Right now I'm just like mentally prepared to like, all right, this is there's a chance they'll say no, and I have to go to the next one. And again, I understand the numbers of it. I understand the more people I talk to, the more chances I have for a yes, and that's what I'm looking for. So I would just be prepared to get a lot of no's, but have the mindset like, okay, this next one, I'm going to have just as much energy and it's going to be a yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
I find myself as well, like when you're talking to sellers on a daily basis and you're hearing a bunch of no's, you're able to withstand it better, right? And the reason I say that is there was a time where I was pretty good at it. And now, because I'm not talking to sellers on a daily basis, someone tells me no, and I'm like heartbroken, right? So it's like, it goes in waves, it ebbs and flows depending on, where you are in your career, I'll say,
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk scale. Okay. I think you're amazing at sales, but I think, and I've told you this, I think you're an even better sales manager, sales leader, right? Like growing a team, building a team. You close your first deal, maybe, do you hire another person right then? Do you close 5 deals? Let's talk about when you think that first hire would come, and then what that first hire would be.
Yeah, I don't think you do it after the first one. Again, the job is tough, and when you add other hires, you got to feed other people, and they rely on you to be successful, right? And to pay them. And I see that quite often too, where wholesale companies, they want to start off really high, hire a bunch of VAs, and next thing you know, they're starting to let VAs go, and that's not fair. So I would definitely make sure that financially the company is in a good place to hire. So I don't know the exact number, but I would say try to get 3 to 5 deals locked up before you're like, okay, this can be something legitimate, and I can bring other people in to my team.
And then what does the first hire look like?
Yeah, it would have to be a virtual assistant, right? Offshore. You're hiring anybody in the United States. It would definitely take more than 3 to 5 deals. But you can get an awesome offshore virtual assistant. We have a lot of them in the Philippines that do amazing work. And you can typically get them between $3 to $5. And be an awesome add to the company. And I know the next piece you said, hey, like what do we do with them, right? And I would say cold calling at that point. I'm a huge fan of outbound. We do SMS and cold calling primarily with our virtual assistants. So that's where I would put a virtual assistant and leverage them. And then tools, right? Like we've added a body. I have to give them tools to be successful. And efficient, and we use a power dialer. Now there's some cheaper power dialers out there, but I mean, we use Ready Mode right now. I speak really highly of them. Awesome customer support. There's other power dialers though. When we first started, we used Phone Burner. I know a lot of other wholesalers that use that one. It'll call up to 3 lines at one time. So maybe start with something like Phone Burner. And then of course, now you can start, you've graduated from driving for dollars maybe. And now you can start actually pulling some data and spending some money on data now to have your virtual assistant call. And then I would use PropStream for that. Try to find out what your buy box looks like. What are you looking for? Is it that single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath with 20% equity in it? Go ahead and pull that tired landlord list. That's what I would start with. Tired landlord, of course. Again, it's really what you're comfortable with and the type of motivation or pain points you want in your sales process. So we deal with a lot of out-of-state tired landlords, people away from their homes. They've had tenants in there past couple years. Maybe the tenants haven't been paying, and now they're like, "Yeah, I don't want to deal with this property. It's 1,000 miles away." And then we're that person to help them. You can set something up very similar, obviously with the list you pull. So pull the list. I would keep it very tight, very small to start with. And then go ahead and once you have that list pulled in PropStream, go ahead and skip it. You can skip it right there on PropStream to avoid any other third-party platform fees. And then, go ahead and skip it and then have your virtual assistant start making phone calls or contacting those sellers.
Gotcha. Now, how do you train the virtual assistants, right? Like, how do you get them onboarded? How do you interview them? How can you trust them? Talk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, so we've hired a lot of virtual assistants, and we for a while there, everybody's like, oh, how do you get people like Diane? She's a virtual assistant we just had on our last podcast, so go and check that out. How do you get virtual assistants that are so awesome? And the truth is we've hired many, and we've also let go of a few, right? So you have to have a very shared understanding on what your values are. For us, it's character, hustle, and grit. And then we give monthly feedback to all our virtual assistants as well. And it has to align with character, hustle, and grit. Another big feedback is like, hey, we have to have qualified leads. And in turn, we have to have signed contracts, right? So those are some of the measurements that we use on our virtual assistants. But really, I would say from the get-go, give some trust. You'll get the feel of your virtual assistant, and I think you'll be surprised on how committed they are as you give them more and more trust. I've definitely found that out with the team that we have.
Very nice. And do you make it the goal to have any virtual assistants, have one virtual assistant, have 10 virtual assistants? How do you think about how big you scale?
I think that, again, it depends on the individual, right? If you're the person that does not want to lead and does not want to work with others or give others feedback, I don't think even hiring a virtual assistant is a good idea for you. But if you're a person like me, I love building teams. I appreciate other people. I want to work with other people and work for other people. I think it is definitely a goal. I don't know if I would be with Grayline today if we didn't have awesome virtual assistants, because I don't know if I would be leveraged enough here. So I'm glad that I have a team of virtual assistants. So I think that really depends on the person. and their capabilities of being a leader. Because bottom line is, although these virtual assistants are virtual, like it still takes a leader to lead them, to give them feedback, proper guidance, and training and so forth. And if you're not equipped to do that, it's not fair to you, and it's definitely not fair to the hire.
Gotcha. And then a few more questions, then we'll wrap it up. Virtual versus backyard. When we did the example, I said you had to use Milwaukee, right? But
Yeah.
in reality, would you do your backyard or a local market, or would you try to go virtual?
As starting out, I would definitely start with my backyard and what I know. And as I grow, and maybe grow out of my backyard, I would definitely expand. I've definitely saw the benefits of working at Grayline and the virtual markets and being able to get in these hotter markets, that is not Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I would definitely start with my backyard, expand, maybe grow out of it, and then find some of those other markets that you could be successful in with the same, again, buy box teams and all that stuff that you have in place.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm glad we got you on to talk all things acquisitions, but we also want to get you on because we're doing some consulting now, right? Like you are offering consulting. Tell me about that. Like how does someone do that? What do you tell them? What do you not tell them? What's up?
Yeah, well, obviously I'm here to help people. I value my time, and due to that, we have a consultant link where you'll be able to go to my Instagram and sign up for the consulting. Again, my wheelhouse is acquisitions, so I want to stick with what I know. And if I don't know the answer, again, I've got awesome resources with John, Frank, Carlo over there in disposition. So anybody that, comes through me, I'll be able to get you the answer. It's really just to give you feedback on maybe your business, your operations, your processes, maybe you're hiring in your team. But yeah, basically just giving you information and knowledge that I've learned over the last 18 months doing this job.
Very nice. So I'll add to that. We had talked about doing a course. We decided we didn't want to do a course, but we still we still think there's a lot of bad information out there, right? So how I look at the consulting is we can't guarantee you success. We aren't trying to be a guru. We aren't going to make you any promises at all. But this is what we will tell you. If you jump on a call with Adam, he'll answer all your questions and he'll tell you exactly how we run our business. And if that's of interest to you, I think jumping on with him could be super, super valuable, right? And do we charge for it? Yeah, I think it's a very reasonable amount. But because of this podcast and we're doing a lot of stuff on social media, we're getting a ton of requests, right? So it was getting to the point where it's really hard to sift through which requests, like who do you get on the phone with and who do you not get on the phone with, right? So it's kind of weird to charge for the consulting thing, but I look at it like it's a small number, and if people are willing to pay that, then they're serious, and we're going to give them our blueprint or give them our playbook.
Yeah, man, great rundown. I appreciate the assist on that.
For sure. Okay. I like everything. You get the final word though. What's your final piece of advice for finding your first deal or scaling to the next level?
Yeah. Finding your first deal. Don't give up, right? I said 50. A lot of people would quit at 49. Numbers can vary, obviously, but just don't quit, and stick with it. And then once you have enough money to support your business, then reach out for a virtual assistants. They're a ton of value to the company. So that's my advice to everybody.
Excellent. Good stuff. So people can find you, Adam at graylineinvestments.com, Adam at graylineinvestments.com. And then what is your Instagram handle, Adam?
Yeah, my Instagram is Parsons0927.
Parson
Parsons 0927. That's correct. Yep.
Parsons 0927. Okay, good stuff. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate your time, brother.
All right.